We stopped with 241, yeah?
Yeah.
Yesterday. He says, and the person who doesn't have water to do wudu or ghusl doesn't have to buy it, whether little money or a lot of money. If he buys it, he shouldn't he can't do wudu with it. It will not be good to do wudu with it. He says, the person who doesn't have wudu, water for wudu, he shouldn't buy it, whether it's like sold for little price or too much money. He shouldn't buy it. He doesn't have to buy it. But if he buys it, then he can't do wudu with it or ghusl with it. That's what he says. Yeah, he can't. That's what he says. Doesn't. And he has to do tayammum. He has a different way of taking ahkam sometimes. He says he can buy it to drink if it is not given to him without money. Like if the person who has it doesn't want to give it without money, he say he can buy it to drink. But to buy it to do wudu and tayammum is not acceptable. And if he choose to buy it, and he does wudu with it, he say his wudu and the ghusl is invalid. He say, and to ask people to give it to him, to ask someone, give me water, if he has water, he say that is something that he has the choice to do or not to do. But he doesn't have to ask people. But if it was given to him without asking, then he must do wudu with it. But to ask, he doesn't have to do that. Okay? So you see these points here. He said the proof for that is that the Prophet has forbidden the selling of water. That's what he says. And he narrates hadith from Muslim that through Abu Salama ibn Abd al-Rahman ibn Auf, that he heard Abu Huraira saying that the Prophet said, لا يباع فضل الماء ليباع به الكلاء. This hadith it says لا يباع فضل الماء, the water, the extra water should not be sold so as to buy as to sell grass with it. You know the grass that you gazing for the animals. The hadith, the majority of the hadith, this hadith is same narration of Abu Huraira, narrated by Abu Salama ibn Abd al-Rahman and many other people. But it doesn't say that the water should not be sold to be لا يباع فضل الماء, that the water should not be sold, so grass should not be sold for that. It says لا يمنع فضل الماء, the water should not be forbidden, the extra water should not be forbidden or stopped, like stopping people from extra water. This is how the narration, because it's same hadith from Abu Huraira, from the same narrators, so it looks like sub-narrators have changed the words. What the hadith says, that extra water should not be stopped, like لا يمنع فضل الماء ليمنع به الكلأ. So the grass is stopped, or the grazing is stopped for that. The hadith is narrated by also in Bukhari, and he mentioned here another hadith from Iyas bin Abd, that he told to a man, don't sell water because the Prophet has forbidden the selling of water. And then also Iyas bin Abd al-Muzani, he narrated it from another narration here, still from Sufyan bin Uyayna, from Amr bin Dinar, from Abil Minhal, that Iyas bin Abd said, don't sell water because I heard the Prophet forbidding the selling of water. And he mentions here another hadith from Aisha, that she said the Prophet has forbidden us to sell the water of the well, or the extra water of the well, like the water that you don't need. He say this is how it is in the hadith. So this hadith is narrated from Jabir also. So he mentioned Jabir, he mentioned Aisha, Iyas bin Abd, he said, and Abi Huraira. He said this is for Sahaba saying that the Prophet has forbidden the selling of water. So it is haram to forbid. The majority of the fuqaha have taken this hadith the way it is, that the Prophet has forbidden the selling of water. The Sahabi saying the Prophet has forbidden the selling of water. And then they say, but it is not haram, which is just makruh. You understand? Yeah? They say the Prophet has said don't do it, but it's not an obligation. If you want to do it, you do it. This means you understand? This is the majority. This is how they take ahkam. Sometimes that this is an order from the Prophet, you don't have to owe. It's just makruh. But this hadith here, there is nothing to show that it is forbidden to sell water just like this. What it says, this is the wording of the hadith, sahih, that water should not, لا يمنع فضل الماء, water, extra water, not all the water, extra water should not be forbidden as to forbid the grazing or the extra grazing. What happens is, there is a land where there is grass and there is a well in it, but a person will stop people from using the well because it's the only source for water in that area. So people will not come to that area to graze, because after the animals have eaten, after they have taken the grazed, they need water or they will be destroyed. I mean, if they have grazed, they need water afterwards. Of course, we are talking about desert. People will not carry water for animals in their pocket, so they will need water in that area. If you stop them, if the person who digged the well, no, the area, the graze, nobody can claim it's mine because it's open field or something. But the well, someone can dig the well and say this is mine, nobody should use the water. If the what we call the shepherds know that they have no access to water, will not graze there. So you understand? So if they have access to water, if they don't have access to water, if they can't, if the animals will graze and then they will find no water to drink afterwards, so what happens is they will not let them graze in that area. So the person who does it stop.
Sorry. So you're saying an animal needs to drink after he grazes?
Yeah, of course. Well, it depends on which animal, not camels, for example. Now, so the Prophet has forbidden this. From the hadith, it's clear that you should not stop the extra water. Now, if the person who is on the well there, the water is enough for him, for his animals, then he doesn't have to give it away. But the extra water, only the hadith only speaks about the extra water. There is another hadith in Muslim actually that says that 3 people, Allah will not look at them the day of judgment, and He will not purify them, and they have severe punishment. One of them, Alaikum Salam, one of them is رَجُلٌ عَلَى فَضْلِ مَاءٍ, a man who is living or sitting next to extra water in a desert, and he will stop from it the traveler. He doesn't let him take the water. Now, if a person has to give something, then he is definitely forbidden for him to sell it. So extra water is forbidden to be sold, but that is extra water. Now, a person might have, someone has 2 wells. One of them is very nice water, one of them is water, drinkable water, and you understand, but not as nice as this. So he might say, okay, you use this water. There is water now. I mean, if two people have, a person has water and another person has water. He has enough water, you can own it. Just like you can own any object. Any object that you can own, you can sell it. Unless there is proof, such as a dog. You can own a dog, but you can't sell it. If you have a dog and someone come and take it, he has stolen it. But still, you can't sell it. Water as well, you can own it. And the hadith say that you should give the extra water that you don't need for someone who need it. So if you have water and someone else have water, but he wants your water because he likes it more, or because there is more nutrition in it, or sweeter, but still his water is drinkable and useful, can use it, then probably there is nothing here to show that he can sell it. Because the hadith that says the Prophet has forbidden the selling of the water, which of course the majority take it because the Prophet has forbidden, is still taken by the majority. Say this is not obligation, it's just makruh. Ibn Hazm take it generally and say it is forbidden to sell water under any circumstances. So if he say if you buy it, then you do tayammum with it, your tayammum is invalid, because the water that you are using, I mean, if you take the first part of the hukm, as if you take the hadith that the Prophet has forbidden the selling of water, then you have to come to the conclusion that he has come to.
But selling and buying is two different things, though.
Yes.
So buying will be haram.
If the Prophet has forbidden the selling of water, then if anyone sell it, he is doing a transaction that is invalid. That means the water will remain his property. If I sell you something that is not, you see, selling and buying is a contract. Now if I sell you something that I am not supposed to sell, if I give you a dog, I gave it to you. But if I sell you the dog, it's a transaction that is invalid. So since it's invalid, like a man marrying a woman in a way that is invalid, this woman is not his wife. A woman who is married, she thinks that her husband died, but he didn't, and then she goes and marries someone else. Later she finds out that her husband is not dead. She thought he died. Someone told her, I saw him dying in a battle or something. Then she went and married someone else. The husband came back. What she do? She was never her husband never died. She was never divorced. So she is still his wife. Now she was with that man by mistake, but she's still his wife. He has never divorced her. So she has to go back to her husband. And what happened there was nothing, a mistake. You understand? If I buy you something which I am not supposed to buy, to sell, or in a way that I am not supposed to sell it, that property remain mine all the time. As soon as we found that this transaction was invalid, then I have to give you back your money, and you have to give me back my property. So the person who has the water that he has bought, it's not his property, and therefore he can't use it. And if he uses it, then he is using something that is haram. It's invalid. Do you understand this way? This not.
What does the hadith say?
Well, I said if you take the hadith the way Ibn Hazm take it. I don't say that you shouldn't do wudu, or I say if you take the hadith says that extra water should not be sold as to get should not be sold as to stop. No, this extra water should not be not sold, should not be forbidden or stopped, or stop people from using it, as to stop with it for that reason, to stop grazing. So that is what used to happen is people will have a well somewhere in the land, open field, and people will come to graze there. Shepherds will come for their animal to graze. Grazing. Animals eat grass. So they will bring their animals to that land, and that like there is only, for example, one well, yeah, of water. Now if the owner of the well stop people from using the water, the people can't use the graze there. They are afraid that their animals will graze and then they will not find water to drink. Or probably he will also means that stopping the shepherds from taking water to drink, the shepherds will not come to that area because they have no access to water. You understand? So this is what is forbidden. It's not to the selling of there is no hadith that says you shouldn't sell water altogether. But extra water in the desert definitely should not be sold.
For grazing?
Yeah.
So why should it be for anyone else, i.e. someone drinking?
Sorry?
That water shouldn't be forbidden from someone grazing his animals.
Yeah.
So why are we applying it to everything else?
No, you apply it for everybody else. For the hadith that I told you about Muslim, that a man in the desert, in a place out of the city, and he has extra water.
That's what it says in the hadith.
Yes.
In the desert.
It's a falat. Falat is mean place, isolated place where there is. So ala fadli ma, extra water. He has extra water and he stops from it the traveler.
Okay, this is specific as well, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is for the stopping for someone traveler, but also it is haram for anyone, because of course we know that it is haram to stop anyone from drinking water or having. You have to save life. You have to تعاونوا على البر والتقوى. Help each other. You help someone to survive. So if he needs water, but of course when there is specific hadith, now extra water, that extra water can be for any reason. The hadith.
Going from the hadith about grazing in the desert, or going from the one in a destitute place?
Well, if you are in a place where you stop water, this is the reason why you shouldn't stop water, for stopping people from grazing. Now if the animals, this is the area, and the owner of the animals house is just there, they can graze here and then go and drink. I mean, they will not die if they walk 1 hour or 2 hours. So this is definitely clear. It is in a place, destitute place, where there is no access to water except his water.
So why are we applying this generally then to people in the city, let's say?
I am not applying this generally. I said Ibn Hazm. If you have this understanding of Ibn Hazm, then you should. This is what I am saying. I'm talking.
Well, after that, though, you said it's haram to sell water.
To sell water, who? Extra water. I said, if you have water, there is nothing to say that you should not sell it. If you have water that is not necessary for the other person, yeah, the other person has his own water, so he doesn't deserve.
When is water extra?
Huh?
How can you say when water is extra?
Okay, I have well.
Yeah.
When you have well, you have extra water. You see the well.
Yeah.
Some wells, like every day, if you take the water of the well can never go up, because it comes from down. You understand? Now the most pressure there is on it, the pressure will stop it from coming. So if it reaches like this, for example, this high, this much water will stop water from coming anymore, because it's pushing the water down. Now if every time you take and the pressure has eased, more water will come, but it will never. There is a level that never come up after that. It is with the level of the earth. You understand? So now, if you leave it that way, it will never go extra. You move it, you take it, there will be more water coming. So the person has extra water. All he has to do is to let people take the water that they need, and then there will be extra water. Or a person, you understand, this is a well. It's not like he goes and get water from somewhere and put it in his jars. He will just take what he needs. You understand? But from the well, it's not. There is extra water, because it comes without him doing anything. He just have to let people take their water. He doesn't have to go and start taking water for them, but let them just use their buckets to get water. You understand? So that is extra water here.
Of these hadiths, giving and not selling.
To give the water.
Yeah, but both the hadith from what I understood.
Yes.
So to give it.
You see, something that you have to give it, something that you have to give, you can't take property. It's Allah ordered you to give it away. What are you taking the money for? I mean, it's not like the person came to you and gave you money. You gave him water, and then after you have finished, you gave them water without condition, because that's what Allah ordered you, and then he come and give you money. You can't take it. But if the person, you tell him, I sell you the water. You are, okay, the money for what? This water is like someone spending on his wife, on his children, and taking money from them in return, charging them. This is their rights. Can anyone charge his children, for example? Child has money because his mother died and left money for him, and the man is capable of spending on his son, but every time he spent buy food or something, he charges him to take proper money from his account. That will be haram, because it is his duty to do that, whether the boy agrees later or not. But that is haram, because you understand. So the water, actually, if the man, it is not. Is it necessary that a person buys water for wudu?
No.
You see, you have to make the difference between two things. Necessity is necessity. When we say necessity, it is to save life. That is necessity. To save yourself, not to help Allah. There is difference between I need water to drink, I need water to do wudu. You don't go and ask people, beg. You don't have to go and ask people for water. As begging is haram anyway. And asking water for wudu should not happen. If you ask someone that you know he is happy with, someone that you can even ask for food, someone that you know that he is happy actually to give you this food. I mean, the Prophet used to do it. That is not begging, actually. You understand? Someone that you already know him, and you share things between you, and that's fine. That is not begging. But to go and ask someone to do wudu is like going and asking someone to give you money to go to Hajj. It's ibadah and ibadah, and that is not necessity. Necessity is something that is haram will remain haram. You don't do haram for the sake of religion, like kill yourself. It's haram to kill yourself, but I kill myself for good purpose, for good reason, yeah, to harm the kuffar or to bring sharia. That is still remain haram. Just like zina is haram, a woman is haram to commit adultery. You don't send the woman to commit adultery with the kafirs so she can get information from them for the sake of Allah. I mean, it's jihad. You understand? You don't go and open a bank that deals with riba so you can control the kafirs. This is the religion of Bani Israel, not in Islam. When we say haram will remain haram, you can do it. You can deal in riba to be able to afford eating. A woman, if she is so dying, for example, and the only way for her to get to eat, she can commit adultery or fornication to save life, because it's haram to commit adultery, but it's haram also to kill herself, and it's necessity here. And it is the opinion, it's not my opinion only, this is the opinion of majority anyway. So you understand?
Yeah.
But you can't do it for the sake of religion and say this is necessity. That is not necessity, because that's when you are saying that Allah is in need.
In cases of life and death. In cases
Yes,
of life and death.
to save life. So because
How about afraid of life? How about afraid of death?
afraid of death, yeah, of course, a person will not wait until he die and save his life. You understand? He is necessity is because you are afraid to die. After you died, there is no necessity anymore.
Supposing you didn't want to do it and you died.
What? You shouldn't. You don't have choice. It is halal in that time. You are doing something halal. and Allah has ordered you to do something to save your life, and at that time that thing became halal to you, and so you are killing yourself intentionally. He said, if the Prophet has forbidden the selling of water, then the selling of it is haram. And if it's haram, then taking it with the transaction is invalid. And if it's batil, taking it is wrong, the way you have taken it is wrong, then it will never become your property. And if it's not your property, then it's not halal for you to use it. You understand? Of course, this is here. When we say generally, when you buy something, it's not halal for you to use. It doesn't become your property. But here, this person who has bought water, if this water is extra from that for that man, it's not his something that he need really. It's extra. He doesn't need it, and he bought water we say. Sometime you can say it became his property because he needed to buy it. Let's say he needed to drink, and then some water is left over or something, then it becomes his property because he was deserving of this water from the beginning, and the person is just stopping him from taking it. So it becomes his property, and all he has to do is try to get his money back. The man who took the money has done something haram, but him taking the water which he needed, it's fine. So he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, لا تأكلوا أموالكم بالباطل. Don't eat your property with for invalid reasons. إن دماءكم وأموالكم حرام عليكم. Your blood and your property is forbidden for you. He said, if he can't find it except with haram way, then such as stealing it or buying it, then that person has no water. He can't find water. If he can find it only with haram, in a haram way, then he can't find it.
You see the surah? The surah. You know the surah?
Yes. ولا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل. Don't eat your property. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 188. So he said the person who can't find water except by doing something haram, then he can't find water. I mean, necessity is necessity. If you drink, you are going to die, you can go and get it anyway and drink it. But then to do prayer, it's not called necessity. You understand his point here? He said, as to buy it to drink, then this person is in state of necessity, and giving money to the seller is haram because he is taking the money without any right, and forbidding the extra water is haram. As to to buy it for to drink is fine. The person will buy it and pay the owner of the water, but the owner of the water, that money is forbidden for him forever. The person can take it any time if he can, because it's still his property, and he has that person it's like someone putting a gun to you on your head and saying, give me your money. You give them money, but that money will become never the property of the person who has taken it in this way. You understand? Also, yes.
So if you need water, for necessity, and I sell it to you, it's haram for me to spend this money.
That money is not yours. You have to give it back.
No,
And you buy it.
Huh?
You buy it.
For necessity. Buys it for necessity.
Yeah, for necessity. Like we say, the proper water, selling extra water for someone who has water. Now, people can own their water. If they can own it, they don't have to give it away. But to give away the extra water, of course everybody has extra water, but to sell the extra water for someone who needs it. I mean, if you go to Tesco Because Ibn Hazm, according to the hadith and the majority, say selling water is, Ibn Hazm say makruh, haram, because of the hadith has forbidden the selling of water, just like this general, which is not, this is the problem with taking hadith general, or the saying of the Sahabi rather than of the Prophet. The Prophet has forbidden the selling of the extra water for someone who needs it. Now to say it is haram, the Prophet has forbidden the selling of the water, this is general. This is why we should never take hadith general like this without statement of the Prophet. And this hadith will make selling of the water at any time for any reason haram. But it is not haram for Tesco, someone or a shop here, to sell water when they know if I go there to buy water, they know I have already water, but I like their water because it's purified, because they have done some work for it. You understand? But if I go there, I am traveling, I have no access to water, I go to the shop and they say I need water to drink, they have no right to deny me. They have to give me water without any money. I don't have to say I want this water, Evian or something. They can go to the tap and get me water, and they have to accept it. Any water that they give me will be good. But then if I say no, I don't want that water, I want this, then I have to pay for it. And it's not a question of extra water now anymore, or
Extra quality.
you understand? He said, as to ask the people for water is fine. There is nothing to say you can't ask someone to give you water when you want it, when you need it. He said, دعوني ما تركتكم, and he mentioned the hadith from the Prophet, that the Prophet said, leave me as long as I leave you. If I order you something, do whatever you can. If I forbid you something, then you have to leave it. He said, if a person now become the owner of the water because it was given to him, whether he asked beforehand or he has not asked, but it was given to him, he now is become the owner of this water. If he is the owner of the water, that means he can find water. If he can't find it, then he has to use it. He said, people have different opinion regarding this. Awza'i, Shafi'i, Ishaq, that he must buy water with the rate. You understand? So Awza'i and Shafi'i and Ishaq say, if he can't find water, he must buy it. This person can't find water. He say, as long as the water is not sold at extra price, like the price of that day. You understand?
Can't you say 50p yesterday because you're here now and it's in Brazil for £1?
Yeah, if they ask for extra water, they say you don't have to buy it. Yeah. Abu Hanifa said he shouldn't buy it with a lot of money. But it's not, he doesn't put a limit. He doesn't say that you have to buy it with the rate of the day, the way it is sold in the market. But he say, as long as it's reasonable, you buy it, but not with a lot of money. Malik said, if he's not rich and the water is expensive, he can do tayammum. But if he is rich and they don't exaggerate in the price, he must buy it. And this is what Ahmad bin Hanbal says as well. Hassan al-Basri say, if they ask him for all his property, for just water for one wudu, and he has to pay, like if he has the kingdom of the earth and they ask him for it, he must buy it and do wudu with it.
So then he's a necessity after that in eating.
Yeah, but rather than, he said he make himself later after in necessity. Yes, later he said Hassan al-Basri is always like this. You do it now and then you don't think about later. That's why people like him too much.
Can you repeat Hassan al-Basri?
Huh?
Can you just repeat Hassan al-Basri?
Hassan al-Basri, he said he should buy it even with all his property. Ibn Hazm said He said, if the person who can find water, Ibn Hazm says, if we call someone who can buy water, that he is a person who is finding water. You understand? He said, if buying it gives you the hukm of someone who is find water, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, if you don't find water. He said, if finding water include buying it with money, then what Hassan al-Basri have said is the right say. He said, but finding it with price is not finding, because you should not buy it. And he said, as for the dividing it and say, if he, as long as he doesn't sell it for expensive price, you have to buy it, and if it's expensive price, then you shouldn't. He said, there is no proof for this. He said, and everything that is necessity, if you call this necessity, then no matter how much it is, it's not expensive.
So just to clarify one thing. So that means even if the money isn't being sold, but it will cost me money to get to where it's being sold, not being sold, then according to Ibn Hazm, I might have to spend. Basically, you don't have to spend more money
on getting water.
Not on the water, accessing the water.
Accessing the water. Everybody spends money in accessing the water.
Let's say it's in a particular part. Let's say, you know, they have toll gates in England.
Yes.
Well, I have to pay to cross this border.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So all it is I'm walking across the border, or we're driving across the border, but I have to pay to cross it.
Yeah, to get to the water there. No,
so
that
the
is.
water's not costing me money, but it's costing me money to get to the water.
No, he will say the person that is, the person who is, who is giving you the water will take money. Not like, let's say you are in a building. In that building there is water, but to get to the building, you have to pay like membership or something. So he will not mention that, but he will say that he's not buying the water, that is, you are buying the entry to the building.
No, but it's costing you money.
Yes, but he will say probably you don't have to spend that money. You understand? But that is different from this. I mean, someone who will hire someone to dig for him. There is water here, but you can't get to it. So you ask someone. It will cost you money. Like, you need someone every day, someone who is in house, but he need a servant to go and collect more water for him. That water will be brought to drink and to do wudu and other stuff. So he is paying for this water, not to buy the water, but he is the person who go and get it transported for him.
No, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But he can do it himself, isn't it?
Yeah, he can do it himself, or he can ask someone else to do it on his behalf.
I'm talking about categorically.
Yes.
Spending money.
Yes.
In order for you to access that water. Not something you could do yourself. There's no other way of reaching that water other than by spending money.
Yeah, Ibn Hazm here will say you don't have to spend any money to get to the water.
And this is correct.
Well, the thing is, in religion, everything in religion, that there is one rule in the usul al-fiqh that says ما لا يتم به الواجب فهو واجب. Whatever the wajib is not fulfilled except by doing it, that should be a wajib. Now this rule here, some people take it generally. Some people say no, there is nothing in the religion that is not wajib, that is become obligation, but just because you can't fulfill the obligation without it. If you see, for example, the Hanbalis, they use this rule and they exaggerate in using it. Now, praying, you can't pray unless your prayer, which is an obligation, can't be fulfilled unless you cover yourself, unless you face the Qibla, unless your clothes are clean, unless so the wajib here, anything that you have to do, such as covering yourself, it's an obligation. But who made it obligation? It's the hadith that made it obligation. Now let's say you don't have clothes, you don't have anything. Do you have, is it an obligation for you to work now to be able to buy clothes to cover yourself? That rule will make it obligation on you to work. That rule will make it an obligation for you to go and work so you can get money to go to Hajj, because Hajj is an obligation when you can. Now the what we call the, let's say Ibn Baz, when he say leaving the prayer is kufr, don't pray one prayer is kufr. And therefore when people come to him and say, what if someone doesn't wake up in the morning? He will say it is an obligation for the person to make all necessary, what is necessary, so to be able to wake up. If he doesn't, then he is a kafir. And then people will say, okay, what about the person who can't wake up except with an alarm? He say he must buy an alarm. If he doesn't buy an alarm, he is a kafir. Okay, show you what became? Now not buying an alarm is kufr. Now what about this person can't afford an alarm? Then he has to work to be able to. If he doesn't work, then he is a kafir. You understand? So it doesn't stop anywhere.
But I want to say in this case that the man could do something haram work to carry out the obligation.
No, and then they say la, because it's haram work.
Okay.
You understand? But if he can do halal work and he's lazy, he doesn't want to, then he will become a kafir here. That is the limit. Where is the limit? The limit is where the Quran says if you don't find water. Anything that the religion didn't say you have to spend money. When the man said that I am not going to, he said zakat. Anything else? He said nothing, except if you volunteer. You don't have to spend any money for anything. You understand? Which is an obligation, except where the religion make it clear obligation. You have to pay a mahr. But you don't have to pay, because if you are going to marry a woman, if someone, it is an obligation for someone to get married. If the woman asks him for anything, except that's something, he must give something. You understand? Because it's a mahr. But if he doesn't, he can offer always the minimum, one date. If she says more, I have excuse, I'm not going to get married, even though it's an obligation, even though I have a lot of money. You understand? You don't have to spend money except where the religion say you have to. That doesn't include buying water for tayammum, or spending any water to do buying water for wudu, or spending any extra water to do wudu. It's an obligation for someone to visit the sick. As long as this person, sick person, Muslim, that you know, it is his right, and follow janazah. As long as there is no extra money to be, I will walk to visit him. Using a car will cost me money. So if there is a distance, I can go and visit him and come back, and without any hardship, I have to do it. If I have to spend money and pay ticket, and then I don't have to, because that is extra. That is, you are asking me to do something extra which is not in the religion.
Only if that's hardship. Only if it's hardship.
Yeah, no,
And
hardship.
If it's easy, if you pay it and it's not a problem.
No. If I can go to this person by walk, if reaching this person by walk is possible, just in Shepherd's Bush down, and then I choose to spend money rather than walking, then it's fine. But when it is an obligation on me, it is only obligation on me if I don't have to spend money. Because it is the right of a Muslim that you visit him when he is sick, or to follow his janazah. That then it's an obligation, and you have to do it. And if you have to do it, then it's up to you. If you do it by walking or you want to spend money, you understand. But if I have to spend money, then it's not an obligation on me. Let's say a person is sick, a person that I know, and he's in Birmingham. Definitely I can't walk to Birmingham and come back. You understand? So I don't have to visit him. If I want to go, it's fine. But it's not an obligation on me. If the person is down the road, it's an obligation on me to go and visit him. And since it's an obligation, now I can do it any way I want, whether in a car or, you understand? Okay. Yeah, carry on. He said 242 ومن كان معه ماء يسير يكفيه لشربه فقط ففرضه التيمم لقوله تعالى لا تقتلوا أنفسكم. And whoever has water enough, just a little water that is enough for his drink, and he can't live without it, then it is an obligation on him to leave it for drink and not use it for tayammum, because Allah said don't kill yourselves. So as long as he has enough water and he thinks that this water he will need it to drink, and he is not hoping to find more water before the water is, or is afraid, he is afraid that if he uses the water he will not be able to find another water to drink, so he shouldn't use it he keep it for drink, and you not use it, because he will be killing himself in that way if he uses it to do tayammum, to do wudu. 243 and whoever has enough water that is enough for wudu, and he is junub, he has janaba, he needs to do, when someone is in janaba, he needs to do wudu and do ghusl. Two separate things. Yes? And he said if he has enough water to do wudu but not enough to do ghusl, then he must do tayammum for janaba and then do wudu. I mean, if janaba is something, ghusl is something, and wudu is something else. So he say that he must do tayammum for janaba and then continue the wudu, do the wudu with the water. Doesn't matter which one he starts. It doesn't. He said if he starts, for example, tayammum first and then he does wudu, or does wudu and then do tayammum, that's fine. That's what he says. He said because there are two different things, ghusl and tayammum and wudu. And he said because there are two different things, one can't be enough for the other. You can't say, okay, I have done ghusl, I don't have to do wudu, because this is the opinion of majority, that if you do ghusl you don't have to do wudu afterwards. And the Prophet, the way he used to do it, he will do tayammum, wudu first and then do ghusl. But that wudu is clearly part of the ghusl, because he will do it with the two intentions. That's the only understanding of it.
You should do the wudu first.
You have to do wudu and ghusl. If you do ghusl only, then you have to do wudu afterwards.
According to what Ibn Hazm saying, doing wudu first, then ghusl, can that make sense at all?
What? No, I'm not talking about that. I finish here and then come back to that.
Okay.
He said if he is able to do one with the water, with all of it with water, then it's not good for him to do anything else, and he must do the other one with tayammum. So he must do wudu, because he can complete with the water wudu. He said then he must do ghusl. And he is here of the opinion that this person, for example, what about this person now doing part of the ghusl, pouring water on his upper body? You understand? But he can't finish his ghusl. He just finished part of his body. Yeah. Now he has to do tayammum for ghusl as well. You understand? Which is
To complete the bath.
Yes, which is in a way he has wasted water for nothing, for no reason. So by washing part of his body, and now there is no water, so he can do tayammum for ghusl, and then there is the wudu left. The other thing here is when he said that he can start with either ghusl or wudu. That is also is wrong, because when he start ghusl, when he start tayammum for the ghusl, okay, he has to do janaba first, and he is doing tayammum. He shouldn't do tayammum because there is water. Even the water is not enough, but there is water. There is water that he can wash with it part of his body.
So if you wash part of his body with that water, that will cover his tayammum.
No, it will not cover anything. It will not cover anything, and there is nothing really to stop him. That is not wasting of water. He is carrying on out his ghusl. Yes. So when the water is finished, then he can do tayammum for the
remaining.
Yeah. Now there is two kind of hadith. There is hadith. Ghusl is hadith.
Yes.
And there is other things that breaks wudu. To say that a person for janaba should do tayammum, do ghusl and wudu, there is no proof. Allah said in the Quran, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ جُنُبًا فَاتَّهَّرُوا. If you are in state of janaba, do tahara. So all you need for janaba instead of wudu, ghusl. But if the person has broken his wudu for other reasons, then he has to do ghusl and wudu. Let's say someone is doing ghusl, and like the Prophet when he did ghusl of janaba, and he touches his private parts. Now he has broken his wudu as well. So he needs wudu for that, and he needs ghusl for janaba. But if someone just janaba, provided, some people say you can have never janaba. Some people say it, but I don't know. Not everybody agrees about it. Some of these people who speaks about fiqh say you can never have janaba without something called madhi, which requires wudu, and therefore every person should do wudu and ghusl for janaba. You understand? So if that is the true, then what he is saying here, that you have to do ghusl and wudu for the janaba, it will be fine. However, if you have to do ghusl and janaba, where you have definitely to have to do ghusl and janaba, and this is the scenario, you have enough water, then you have to use the water first. When the water is no longer there, then you can carry on the tayammum. It is always makes sense that you start with the wudu if you have enough water for wudu.
Start with the wudu.
Yes.
I thought that the ghusl would have, just from my understanding,
Yeah.
the ghusl wouldn't allow you, because the ghusl is in the way, that the janaba...
No, that is your understanding only, no problem.
You can't have wudu without having ghusl.
Yeah, you can have wudu without having ghusl.
If you got janaba.
Yeah.
Wait, how do you understand this? Because this one...
Yeah. You do wudu and then you do ghusl. Your wudu.
So if for example you're in a state of janaba,
Yeah.
And you make wudu
I
and pray.
go do wudu and then I go in the shower and have a shower.
Yes.
Khalas, I'm
You
finished.
have done your wudu.
As long as I don't touch
The wudu is for other hadith. What does it say that you have to?
Okay, how about you do wudu when you're janaba, pray and go have a shower?
Oh, you can't pray without janaba. With janaba.
But you say, okay.
You understand? You see when the Prophet used to do ghusl,
Yeah.
he will do first wudu and then complete his ghusl. Now when he has done wudu, that wudu will be wudu and ghusl of these particular parts.
But I thought you couldn't have wudu
You can do
while
both.
in a state of janaba.
Yeah.
You can't have wudu.
While in a state of janaba.
Actually, you have to have wudu sometime when in state of janaba. You have to go to sleep and do wudu even if you are in state of janaba. And then you wake up and continue your ghusl.
You know, I'm thinking for salah at this point, not so specifically.
Well, the wudu is all the wudu is the same.
Yeah.
So you're saying that covers that wudu, that area would be covered by the ghusl as well?
Yeah, if a person, let's say a person went to sleep and he has done wudu.
Yes.
Now every hadath that goes by wudu is gone. let's say he went to sleep, he couldn't sleep,
Yes.
and then he decided to go and do ghusl.
Yes.
He has to repeat the ghusl all his body, because first the wudu was only with intention for wudu, but he doesn't have to do wudu because he has already wudu. There is nothing in the religion you say, don't say this have to be before this. Let's say someone went to toilet and, for example, urinated, and then he did wudu, only to remember that he has never done istinja, cleaned himself. What does he has to do?
Finish the wudu and then
No, he finished his wudu now, and then he remembered that he didn't do istinja. He just go and do istinja. As long as he doesn't touch his private part with his hand,
okay.
then there is nothing to say that he has to do this before this, even though normally this is what people will do.
Okay, let's say I'm going to go to wudu.
Yes.
Instead of janaba, yeah? But with the intention I'm doing wudu, I'm doing it as this is my ghusl for these areas as well. And when I wake up, I'm just going to wash the body parts, not my feet, not my thing. Is that fine?
We have said that the ghusl doesn't have to be.
A break, I'm taking a long break.
Yes,
going to lie
yeah.
down.
There is nothing to say that ghusl you can take a break in between ghusl. This is what we were talking about before. Like someone wash half of his body, and then something happens, and then he goes and come back. Does he have to repeat the ghusl altogether? That's what Malik says.
Yeah.
Not everybody agrees with him.
Yeah.
And if you can, the Prophet did wudu, and then before he finishes his wudu, when he reached the head, he washed all his body. Now that was wudu, and then in the middle there is ghusl, and then he went and completed his wudu by washing his feet. So there was something in between the wudu. You understand? And if you say you have to do it one after the other, you have to give a limit. Someone is in the shower with hot water, and then hot water runs, and then he go to get more hot water, for example, from the kitchen or something. Now he has done something in between.
So where's the hadith where he started his wudu and then he done the ghusl?
Bukhari and Muslim.
There's no problem if you do usul then wudu though.
No?
If you want to do usul then wudu.
Yeah, there is no anyone you can start with this or this. There is nothing in the religion that say you have to start with this or this. Okay. He said 244. فلو فضل له من الماء يسير, if some little water is left, فلو استعمله في بعض أعضائه ذهب ولم يمكنه أن يعم به سائر أعضائه. He said if he has done wudu, let's say now he started with wudu, and little water is left, if he uses it, he can't complete his full body. He said then it's obligation on him to wash whatever he can, and then do tayammum.
The rest of his body.
Shafi'i said he can wash any part of his body with that water for ghusl, and do tayammum for the rest of his body. I mean, do the tayammum for the body, because there is no
Half body.
half body. You can wash half of body and wait a long time and then wash the rest of it. But there is nothing that you have janaba. My hand, there is no janaba in my hand, but there is janaba in my feet. You understand? There is no such thing. Ibn Hazm say, our ashab, the Zahiris say, this is a mistake, because he said, the Zahiris said that this person is not unable to use water to wash part of his body, but he is unable to wash all his body, and because there is no such ghusl as part of the body, then he doesn't have to use that water to wash part of his body. He must do tayammum. Do you understand this part? He say he can't wash all his body. Yes, they agree that he can't wash his body, but he can wash part of it, of his body. But washing part of the body doesn't make any sense, doesn't change anything, and he is supposed to wash all his body. Therefore, if there is enough water to wash just part of his body, then he doesn't have to use it, and he must go straight to the tayammum, because he is not finding water. That's what the Zahiris have said.
according to this, of your understanding, that if the water is in front of them, even a little bit, and they can't now do tayammum, then these Zahiris who have that understanding and take some of your understanding, they would have to say they pray without anything.
If you just leave all these if after that, just give it simple so I can follow.
What I'm trying to say is that if, for example, you have some water in front of you,
Yeah.
not enough to do ghusl with,
Yeah.
just to do your head,
Yes.
yeah? But you're of the opinion that if the water's there, I can't do.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me not even, because you're going to just get moaning about it. Let me just leave it. Because
That's better.
You're going to get moaning. There's no late with you.
Abu Muhammad said, قال رسول الله. Yes. The Prophet said, إذا أمرتكم بأمر فأتوا منه ما استطعتم. If I order you something, do whatever you can. This person is able to do part of his wudu or part of his ghusl. He can do all of the rest. It's an obligation on him to do the ghusl what he can, to wash whatever he can. So he must start with the part of the wudu and the part of the ghusl, wherever he can reach. If that is finished, then he must do tayammum for the rest of his body, because he can't find water to wash it. So he must use soil instead. If part of his body is gone and he can't wash it with part, or he can't use water to touch it, such as injuries or broken parts, whether it's little or big, it's enough for him to wash the rest of his body, because he can find water but is not able to use it for the limbs. But he can't do tayammum because the water is there, and whatever he can't wash, then he doesn't have to wash it. You understand? He say if he has water but he can use it for part of his body, he must do it. The rest of his body he can't find water, he does tayammum. But if part of his body he can't use water because he is sick, I mean he has injuries, or this part of his body he can't use water for it, then he must wash what he can. But he doesn't have to do tayammum. There is water but he can't use it. You understand? Someone who is like in broken leg and is in plaster, putting water on it will make it worse. Then he must wash what he can and leave this part. But he can't do tayammum for that. So he's just giving a comparison in a way to this to the Zahiris, who said because he can't wash part of his body, it will be useless to wash the other part and then do tayammum afterwards, because washing part of the body is not ghusl. You understand?
But wouldn't the hadith come into place where I said do what you can?
Yes, well, this is Zahiri said, yeah, what you can, but this doesn't make sense anyway, because you will have to do tayammum afterwards. You can't, because you are not going to clean yourself. You understand? By washing part of the body, it doesn't make any changes, and you will have to do tayammum. That's what Zahiri say. So they say then you don't have to use that part of water, just go tayammum straight away. He says, he gives them this example. They say, the Prophet said, do what you can, and this person can wash part of his body. And they give an example, what about a person who is injured, for example? He has not washed part of his body as well, because he can't use water in there. But he still have to do ghusl for the rest of his body. And the other Zahiris agree about this. He say this and this is the same, except that this person here, we don't tell him to do tayammum, because there is nothing to say that he has to do tayammum. You understand? Because there is water. For the other case, so sometimes you try to explain to people with the way that, give them an example that they agree with, and just let them to, you understand? You understand this point? Okay, so you understand this point, and it's anyone to go, or we'll continue? Okay, just quickly then. He said, whoever is in state of janaba,
245.
yeah, 245. Whoever in state of janaba, he has no water, he must do tayammum. 2 of them.
If he's in state of janaba.
Yes. Someone who is in state of janaba and he has no water, he must do 2 tayammum. That's what he says. He says 1 for the janaba and then 1 for the wudu. Doesn't matter which one he starts with. That is not true. If it's only janaba, then Allah said fattaharu, cleanse yourself, which is clean your body. And the Prophet, when Ammar bin Yasir complained to him about being in state of janaba and he couldn't do water, he rolled himself in the dust. The Prophet, he said, it was enough for you to do this. That is janaba, and he said it was enough for you. You can't say that it's enough for you to do it. He just meaning you have to do it. You don't have to roll yourself. So you can do just this and it's enough.
Well, he does, he rolled himself on
Yes. Qiyas. No, it's not qiyas. It's not. It's the opposite. The opposite of qiyas. No, some people in al-Muntada said this is qiyas. No.
To roll around in the dirt.
Huh?
2 years
Roll
ago.
around in the dirt.
Yes.
No, 2 years ago, Zaid brought the example, and you never heard it. You guys never heard this example. So someone intelligent must have thought of this example.
Who?
Zahid said to you, must have read from Muntada,
Yeah.
and he used this.
No, actually it was Haytham who said it.
Well, he must have got it from him, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember you was like, okay, this person.
Yeah. But actually it was the opposite of qiyas.
Yeah, it's half of the ayah.
Yeah. Anyway. So he says, the Prophet, when he told this man, he told him that it's enough for you. That is janaba. He said it was enough for you to do this, and he told him to do it. He did it once, so it is enough for the janaba. However, if there is a hadith, another hadith, the person had to do wudu for, because he was in state of janaba and he has broken his wudu, then he has to do wudu for the wudu. Do tayammum for wudu.
So there's 2 tayammum.
In that case, yeah. But if he only janaba, then there is only 1. He said, because now his proof is, he said this is 2 different things. So one thing can't be instead of 2. But of course we will say you have to do 2 tayammum, but if you can do 1 tayammum with 2 intentions.
You can do 1 tayammum with 2 intentions.
Yes, you can do 1 wudu with 100 intentions.
Intention for what? I don't understand. How can you have no 1 intention for wudu?
You can do wudu for, okay, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm going to my bed. I do wudu. This wudu will be for going to sleep when you go to your bed. In the meantime, when I reach my bed, on the top of my bed I will pray 2 rak'ah.
But you don't have to have wudu, intention for wudu.
You don't have to have intention for wudu. That's good.
I've never heard anything like that.
Wudu, you have the intention of doing dhuhr and asr. That's 2 intentions.
No. It doesn't matter. You do 1 wudu, and then you do with it whatever you like. If you stand up for prayer, but that is not. But you can't.
When I'm saying intention, I mean like you don't do wudu, say maybe for dhuhr and asr.
No, that means intention. Let's say you are going to do wudu. Some people, and then you are washing your hands. Okay, you started, washed your hands, washed your face, normal. You didn't want to do wudu. People, when they wake up sometime, they wash just exactly like wudu. You understand? Some people have this habit. They wash their mouth and then they wash their face. So he has done part of the wudu. When he reached to wash his hands, I am going to pray. Let me continue the wudu fully. He was not going to do the wudu. Now the part of that you have done at the beginning, just to wash yourself because you woke up from sleep, or to freshen yourself up, that's count for wudu? No, you have to repeat from the beginning.
Yeah, I thought you meant as in like when you do wudu, you say this for dhuhr and asr.
No, this is not for the Maghrib and Isha. No, that is not what I meant. What I meant that you have to do tayammum with intention. You understand?
Yeah.
And then if you are doing tayammum with intention, you are doing wudu for a reason. I am doing wudu
I want to pray.
to pray.
Yeah.
And I am doing wudu to go to sleep. You understand? So both of them, you do them. You see, when the Prophet went for Hajj, for example, and said for Aisha that your Hajj, your tawaf around the Kaaba is enough for your Hajj and Umrah. Now, according to Ibn Hazm, according to the majority, there are obligations that you can do with different intentions, like one obligation with two intentions, and some of them you can't, according to the majority. Yeah, you can go now. We're finished with that. I told him. Yeah.
You finish in the car, or are you going to stay?
I have to stay a little bit, so you can go. What I do, inshallah, we will continue tomorrow. I was because he has something to do.
Yeah, no.
Just stop and put it on hold, yeah?
You stop it, and leave it there. So what happened is,